Greetings, it's Will from StormTheCastle.com, and you are watching the Sense of Wonder YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in. This video is one of a series of videos where I travel all around this beautiful country of America. Travel along with me. And this is the Quest to See America Part 2. Well, so I got myself a motel room just outside of my hometown for about 5 days. And for me, that was kind of important. I had some things I wanted to just work out, and I wanted to rest. And it was almost like a transition period for me, a little rite of passage there, just to, actually it was a motel, not a hotel. But it was like a rite of passage, kind of like demarking a transition for me where I could shake off my old life and set off on my big adventure across America. I start out and I live in Massachusetts, so I thought to myself, in my planning, that I would head up to Portland, Maine, and kind of make that the official start of my quest, which was kind of nice. And I figured, and I thought at the time, although my plans did change afterwards, but I thought I would end the whole thing in Portland, Oregon. So I had traversed the whole country, started in Portland and ended in Portland on two different oceans. I ended up not doing that because it just didn't make a whole lot of sense in terms of visiting all 48 states and seeing all the things I wanted to see in the country. So if I were to drive across, I guess I could see from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon, I guess I could drive across and hit, a dozen or 15 states, but it's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to visit all 48 states. A couple of things, though. I set off, it was April, and so just the first beginnings of spring here in New England, and I was pretty calm about it. I wasn't nervous. It's a big quest for me, a big adventure, something I've been wanting to do my whole life for a very long time. I talked about that in the last travel video. And I felt good about it. And the roadways, it's interesting because, driving from Massachusetts up to Maine is no big deal. It only takes, a few hours. I forget now, maybe 5 or 6 hours, I guess, if you drive it all the way straight. And depending, then again, where in Massachusetts and where in Maine. But, these New England states are small states. And I ended up in Portland, got a place to stay there for another 3 or 5 days. And just tried to take in some of the Portland atmosphere. It's very New England, so I was comfortable and familiar with the homes and the buildings and the roads and the ocean and how everything was pretty much laid out. But Portland itself is nice. And I got a couple of things I wanted to say to you, just to give you some thoughts in terms of the Sacred Lighthouse. I visited some beautiful buildings, took pictures. I'll have more on the website. I also visited a blacksmith, which was really kind of fun. I enjoyed that. For me, and I'm going to be doing a video and a podcast specifically about blacksmithing because of the fire. There's a lot of symbolic meaning in blacksmithing and in fire and in hammering and forging. I love that. But, I spent a full day with the blacksmith and we had lunch and, he showed me his shop and we talked about the kind of things he does. And he made me a, bottle opener. Well, just a clever little handheld object that you use to pry the tops off of bottles. So I still have that. And I appreciate that gift he gave me, but more importantly, he gave me the gift of his time. And I think that, in the 60s and 70s and 80s, blacksmithing almost died out here in America and a lot of the world because, manufacturing processes and, just there was no more need for blacksmiths. But thankfully, it didn't die, and it's had a revision. Now there's a lot of interest in blacksmithing, and I've done a moderate amount myself. I can't. I'm not a blacksmith, but I've probably spent a couple of 100 hours at a forge, which makes me still a beginner. But I've made knives, and I've made swords, and I've made a bunch of other things, the typical stuff blacksmiths make. But so I admire blacksmithing. It's very hands-on, and it's very pure in terms of, as a human being, to just lay your hands on something and learn a craft that's useful to make things for life to be a little better or a little easier or a little more improvement. You know, I like that. But let me, I won't keep you that long. This podcast is kind of short, but I wanted to say that one more thing, you know, something that really struck me. At the motel, it was kind of like a hotel, because it had I think it was on the 5th floor. Nice place. I think it was a Days Inn, I forget now. I have pictures and I could check my notes. I guess it doesn't matter, but and this is just in the beginning of my journey, right? I've just started out seeing America. I really haven't seen anything yet, except Portland. I was sitting outside the hotel on a little bench, and right next to me was a man and a woman, both maybe in their late 40s, maybe, roughly. I struck up a conversation with them. They seemed like nice people. Well, I guess pretty much everyone is nice people. But, we were talking, and the man was struggling. He was having some troubles. Could tell he was in ill health. And the conversation came around that he had been diagnosed with cancer, and his health was getting worse. And the two of them, as a couple, he in particular wanted to do some traveling. You know, and I forgot where they were from, but Portland, Oregon was not their home of origin. They were from somewhere else. So, that really struck me in a couple of ways. I think it's beautiful it's like a make-a-wish kind of thing, when you really, truly, like this man was doing, facing his mortality, they decided to find some enrichment before he passes on. The two of them were out adventuring and traveling. So I thought that was kind of beautiful, and it reinforced me in terms of thinking to myself, the gratitude I have to say, I'm not specifically facing my mortality. I mean, we all are, but I haven't been diagnosed with cancer, or I haven't been given a death sentence. But I had come to a point in my life where I had said, if I don't do some of these things I really desire to do, soon I might not be able to do them at all. It might be too late. It might come to the point where it's too late. So that man's position reinforced me to say, in a way that I have gratitude that I could do it. And while I was still healthy and still able to, and the door hadn't closed yet. So that's it. Here in the video you see some various things of me on the road heading from Massachusetts to Maine. A little bit with the blacksmith. Maybe I'll try to slip in a little bit about the motel or the hotel I was staying in. And that's it. A little bit of Portland, which is, it's a port, a seaside city, which is nice. I love the smells and the sounds of that kind of thing, having grown up in New England. I'm sure I didn't spot them, but I'm sure they have a few lighthouses. Maybe some of them still work. And that New England sensibility is I like. There's still a lot of cobblestones and very old buildings dating back, a couple hundred years. Beautiful churches. So that's it. So let me see. Let me give you a task. One of two things. I'll give you one. You can choose one of two tasks. The first task that I lay before you is grab some paper and a pencil Do not do this on the computer. I don't want this to be typewritten. I want this to be handwritten. And write out, if there is something you want to do, see, enjoy, or experience before it's too late in your life. No matter what your age is, doesn't matter. See, my quest here goes all the way back to when I was around 15 or 16 years old. And it took me a long, long time to finally fulfill it. The quest to see America. So your age doesn't matter, but what is it? It could be anything that's for you. That's what's important. What is it for you? It could be as simple as, I don't know, whatever. Opening a greenhouse. Buying a little greenhouse and starting your greenhouse. It could be anything. Learn how to oil paint. Read that book. Read the Bible end to end, cover to cover. Return to church or go to church. Re-inspire your religious beliefs. Just to give you some ideas. So that's your task. Write it down. Because when you write it, not when you type it, but when you write it, something happens. It gives it more tangibility. It gives you something happens where it becomes more real. Mystery abounds. Thank you. Remember, life, we've all been programmed to forget that life is a sacred and beautiful thing. So try to consider that. Life is a beautiful, sacred thing. It's a gift and a test.